the retained farmlands, and this is to comply with minimum distance separation setbacks. A holding provision is also being applied to areas of high archaeological potential. No comments were received from members of the public regarding this file, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions from any council members on a technical regard? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, can you explain the map? I'm getting a little confused because there seems to be a house on it. Is that what we're severing, the house? But there's also a piece of property right beside it that's not part of the farmland. Was that severed quite a few years ago? Thank you.
So through you, Mayor, yes, it was a 100-hectare parcel, 100-acre parcel, 40 hectares originally. In the 70s, there was a surplus farm dwelling severance taken out of it already. So hence why we see two houses. Today, we're doing a second surplus and prohibiting any future residential development on those retained farmlands.
Okay, now we'll hear from members of the public regarding this application. Is the applicant or agent present, and would you like to make a submission? Yes, come out to the microphone, please. Nicole will get you set up back there. And if you could just give your name for the record, please.
So my name is Isabella Polova. I'm the current owner of a house on a corner of Smith and Maple. I just moved to the area in September.
Okay. Thank you. This is the different application.
It's not the townhouse
No,
behind
not
on
yet.
the farmland there? Okay.
Excuse me, I'll
Perfect, Bill,
address
thank
your
you.
concerns.
I'll be
Thank you.
back.
That's another, yeah, we figured you would be. Okay. Is either Agnes or Gordon Brindley here, or their agent representing them? Oh, there we are online. Here we go. Yes. Okay. Yes. Just identify yourself and away we go.
Certainly, thank you. My name is Ron Davidson. I am a planning consultant, and I filed the application on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Brimley. I don't have much more to add to what was already said, so I'll be brief. And I didn't hear what was said because it wasn't turned on. I guess at the beginning of your meeting, but I can assume what was said is in line with what was in the planning report. But again, I will be brief. The Brimleys own a few farms comprising of just over 390 hectares of land, and they actually farm those lands, so they do meet the definition of a bona fide farmer. And they would qualify to sever a lot off containing a surplus farmhouse. This proposal does conform with the surplus farmhouse severance policies found in the county official plan. And it also lines up with the similar policies that are found in the provincial planning statement. I know we're not dealing with the severance tonight. We're dealing with the rezoning or zoning bylaw amendment, which will facilitate the severance. And I'm suggesting that zoning bylaw amendment should be approved based on good planning merit. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Ron. Appreciate that. Now we'll hear from any other member of the public who is in support of this application. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in that regard? Okay, moving on. Is there anyone who would like to object to this application? Okay. Are there any other written submissions that you've received, Amy?
No comments received, no written submissions.
Okay. Do any council members have any further technical questions regarding this application? Okay. Oh, Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I've been noticing more and more tractors on the roads. Just wanted to ask, and it wasn't part of the submission, is this farmer fairly close by for equipment? This is Concession Road 2, and it's right near, you know, that big Bruce Power, and twice a day, it's quite congested. So I'm hoping that he's not going to be driving 10 miles to get from farm to farm, but I don't see that on the application. Is that all part of the study when you look at it?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. The application does include retaining the accessory storage buildings, which house the farm equipment on the retained farmlands.
You're answering my question.
So if there are no further questions, I would now declare the public meeting to be closed. So now we move on to the discussion regarding the recommendation. So we need a mover and seconder that council approve zoning bylaw amendment Z 2025-014, 2025 or 2026.
Sorry, it's 2026.
Okay. So just to make that amendment here. So council approves zoning amendment bylaw Z 2026-014 by Agnes and Gordon Brindley, and the necessary bylaw be forward to council for adoption. Moved by councillors Blackwell and Kavanaugh. Comments, discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, Ms. Rogers, thank you. Appreciate your being here. Next on the agenda is a public meeting for file number Z 2023-023 for Braymark Homes, Inc., 15 Patterson Street in Tiverton. And if anyone from the public is interested in this application or wishes to receive a notice of the decision, please send an email to the county for that or fill in the sign-out sheet. So I now declare the public meeting open. I would ask the planner on the file, Karina Smith, to present the application. Good evening, Karina. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Mayor Craig, through you. So the purpose of the current application is to permit a 50-unit residential townhouse development in the southwest quadrant of Tiverton. The proposal requires a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the lands from planned development to residential 3 special with site-specific provisions. The environmental protection zone is proposed to remain unchanged. The proposal also seeks to rezone an adjacent property at 15 Patterson Street from Residential 1 to Residential 1 Special, and that would be to recognize the existing buildings on that property. The application, specifically the townhouse development, was previously presented to this council at a public meeting in November of 2023. The previous proposal included an application for a draft plan of subdivision and a zoning bylaw amendment. The applicant has since revised their proposal to increase the number of units proposed. So originally it was proposed with 46 townhouse units, and now they are proposing 50. The application also reconfigured some of the units at the south end of the site and changed the extension of Maple Street into the property from a hammerhead configuration to a cul-de-sac. The draft plan of subdivision is no longer required. The applicant has changed the proposal to make it fully a proposed condominium proposal. And so the applicant, should this zoning bylaw amendment application be approved, the applicant would return to the municipality for site plan control approval, as well as to the county for a condominium exemption application. The zoning bylaw amendment has also been updated to reflect that the Kincardine Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw was changed and a new bylaw brought into force and effect in April of 2025. And so the applicant did revise some of their zoning requests to reflect the new comprehensive zoning bylaw. And the proposal has also been amended to include the adjacent property at 15 Patterson Street. So this property was added to resolve an existing claim from that neighboring property onto the development lands. And that specifically included a post and wire fence that extended onto the development site. And through this proposal, the applicant is looking to establish an easement on the development lands to allow for access to an accessory building on 15 Patterson Street. So I will just briefly go over some of the designations on this site. So under the county official plan, the property, two properties are designated primary urban community. And under the Kincardine official plan, they are designated residential and natural environment. The proposal does comply with the policies of both the county official plan and the municipality's official plan. With respect to the zoning bylaw, so the development site is currently zoned planned development for most of the property, with the exception of a small environmental protection 1 area at the north end of the site. So the applicant is seeking to rezone the site from planned development to residential 3 with site-specific provisions. The residential zoning R3 does permit a broad range of residential uses, which does include row dwellings, or what is commonly referred to as townhouses. So there are several site-specific provisions proposed to permit this future development. And the reason for that is that the zoning bylaw doesn't necessarily take into account development proposals that contemplate a back-to-back townhouse development. So there's no rear yards with these units. They are back-to-back. And so the provisions have been crafted to ensure that there is appropriate development and setbacks from neighboring landowners and appropriate separation between existing buildings as well as separation to roadways. The proposed zoning provisions do maintain the intent of the R3 zone, but as noted, they are unique to recognize the back-to-back design and the combination of a proposed municipal road as well as private streets through the development. The bylaw is included in the agenda package for council's consideration, and I have done more specific write-up on each of the proposed amendments. Specific for the Environmental Protection 1 zone, there are no proposed changes to that zone, and it will remain in place. And then as it relates to the adjacent property, 15 Patterson Street, the site-specific provision is specifically to recognize the existing buildings and structures, which are historical and don't meet the current zoning requirements. And so those buildings would be recognized, but any future development on that property would need to comply with the R1 provisions in the zoning bylaw. So through the public circulation process, both the original public meeting in 2023 and through the circulation most recently for tonight's public meeting, there were several public comments that we did receive. Some of those related to loss of privacy due to the building height and proximity of the development to existing neighborhood. So the applicant is seeking to amend the building height for the R3 zone from the permitted maximum of 11 meters to 12 meters. And this is to facilitate a 3-story building design. If I could maybe have staff bring up the renderings just so that members of the public would be able to see those. So I did not have those included in my report today, but they were shared by the applicant's agent earlier this week. So this is the rendering that's showing conceptually what the development could look like. So it is 3-story back-to-back townhouse units in blocks. And then so to accommodate that 3 stories as well as the pitch of the roof, the applicant is seeking to have a 12-meter height permitted on the site. With respect to other privacy considerations, all of the proposed townhouses are proposed in the center of the site and provide setbacks to neighboring properties. Through the site plan control process, the applicant is proposing a 1.8 meter high privacy fence, and a landscaping plan can be requested by the municipality as well. There were also concerns received from the public about those setbacks and the number of amendments proposed. So I have covered already why there are a number of amendments, and that's because of the unique design of this proposal. But with respect to setbacks, the applicant is exceeding the yard setbacks that would typically be required in an R3 zone to neighboring properties. And in respect to density, we did have comments from the public saying that this density was too high for the community. So Tiverton, as I indicated earlier, is a primary urban community in the county official plan. And so what that means is that that's a first order community, and that's where we direct a lot of the growth for the county, but also for the municipality. The density on this proposal is 49 units per net hectare. And that's just under the maximum of 50 units permitted for medium-density residential development proposals in the local municipal official plan. Comments were also received with respect to traffic and safety. The applicant did provide a transportation impact study and several addendums to that study to reflect changes in the proposal as it advanced through the process. The addendums have identified that there are no need to update any of the municipal road structures. Traffic will be directed through both Smith Street and the adjacent road to that. At one time, there was access proposed from Maple into Mance, an emergency access. That has since been removed, and both county transportation, MTO, and municipal staff have reviewed the transportation impact study as well as those addendums and have determined that that is satisfactory. Public comments also identified concerns with respect to drainage and flooding. So the applicant has submitted a servicing analysis and a preliminary stormwater management report, and that has indicated that stormwater will be maintained on the site per the requirements of the province, the municipality, and the Conservation Authority. Stormwater quantity control will be maintained on site, and quality control will be managed through oil grit separators. There are underground storage tanks proposed underneath the private roadways in the development, and ultimately all stormwater will be directed to Nile Creek. The Conservation Authority has reviewed the proposal and have determined that they are also satisfied with the development. They will require a permit from the Conservation Authority, but the Conservation Authority has confirmed that stormwater management proposed is adequate and that there will be no impacts to the floodplain. So there will be no increase to the flood line of Nile Creek. Finally, public comments also noted concern with respect to loss of green space and lack of amenity space for this proposed development. So there are existing trees on the property, and many of those will be removed from this development proposal. As I noted earlier, the municipality can ask for a landscaping plan through the future site plan control process to address and provide additional green space on the site. There is also amenity space provided on the property as well, adjacent to Nile Creek. Final community concerns did relate to existing infrastructure and whether there was capacity for this development. And through the servicing and assessment that has been provided by the applicant, they have demonstrated that the site can be appropriately serviced, and there is capacity in the system for the 50 units that are proposed. That concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any, from council members, are there any technical questions regarding this application? Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. Thank you for the report. I noted in the report that it said the maximum building height shall be 12 meters instead of the maximum 11 meters. This allows flexibility for the proposal. Are they able to make the 11 meters, or is it not? It's not for flexibility, it's required based on the design that they're looking to build.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Craig. So the flexibility is to allow if there are changes in grade or they change the design. So the design that was presented on the screen earlier is a concept. So there may be revisions to that design. Height is measured based on the type of roof. So if it's a peaked roof, it's measured from a certain distance. If it's a flat roof, it's a certain distance. So if there were changes in that design that required that little bit of flexibility between 11 and 12 meters, but I can't say for sure what their current height is based on their current design. I'd perhaps look to the Quest and Planning to answer that question.
We have someone online. Are you an agent for the Company.
Yes, thank you,
Yep.
Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. My name is Nicholas Kohak for Cuesta Planning Consultants. I am the agent for the owners on this application. Yeah, I did not have a presentation prepared tonight, but I'm here to answer any of these technical questions that may have come up during the presentation. So, just based off of the question here, the final building design, it hasn't been finalized at this point in time, but I will say 12-meter building height is pretty, it's pretty normal for this type of development involving this townhouse design with the back-to-back units. Yeah, it is fairly common to have that type of building height to accommodate this this built form. The 12 meters does allow for, as staff have mentioned, some flexibility when we're looking at the overall grades on the site, and detailed grading has just not been determined yet at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I have a few questions. There was a lot of complaints about the height restriction, and then we went ahead and we raised it by a meter. I'm not quite sure, when we're dealing with the public and they have a concern, should we really be trying to increase it? I mean, the standard is 11 meters. Maybe you could justify why you went up an extra meter, especially with the criticism. Then I have a couple more questions after that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor. So with this development, there was a couple things that we did take into consideration with respect to the public comments. So as I noted it during the presentation, the buildings will be in the center portion of the site. So in terms of overlook or privacy concerns, there is that greater setback that is provided by the landscaping strip as well as the private road before you get to the actual buildings. And then in this case, it was to accommodate that flexibility in design and the peak of the roof. Really just looking to see if there's a way to address the applicant's concerns, as well as just, we didn't want them to necessarily have to come back for another application. They may be able to meet that 11 meters, but just to allow for that flexibility, we did include the 1 meter difference.
Oh, I'll come back to you. We'll go around the table a bit. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you through your chair. I'm going on the same thing. When we say building height, are we measuring from grade to peak or grade to eave? Just the first.
Based on my recollection, but I can look at the bylaw just to confirm, but I believe it is to midpoint of eave for a peaked roof.
Midpoint of eaves trough? Or the midpoint of the building, which would be the peak?
So we're just going to look that up for you.
Okay, that would be good. And yeah, just to clarify what you said earlier about it's put in the center of the property, essentially what you're saying, a building that met the 11 meters high, put at technically the minimum setback from the adjacent property line would be much more imposing than a 12-meter building set farther away from the property line. Is that correct?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
All right. You used some planning language. I was just trying to, what the point I think you're trying to get across is that an 11-meter building would have met the zoning bylaw maximum height requirement, but if you put it at the minimum setback from the adjacent property, visually it would be much more imposing on surrounding properties than a 12-meter one put in the middle of what looks to be like roughly a 150-foot wide property?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
And just to go back to your earlier question, height is measured from the midpoint between the peak and the eaves for a peaked roof.
Okay, thank you.
Halfway up the roof. Who'd have thought? I would have thought it was okay. Any other? We'll go back. Councillor Steinhoff-Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I did have one question about the traffic study, because I'm not sure whether you've taken in consideration the other development that was approved for the 88 houses. as part of Fast Holdings. So you have 88 residents, I think, in that same neighborhood, plus this 50 units. And it's a relatively small street coming out to the, either going towards the lake or going towards the T intersection in Tiverton, where we already have we've had a lot of accidents there, let's be real. So I'd just like to understand how that was taken into consideration, whether it was done exclusively based on current traffic conditions or understanding the approvals that have already been done.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Craig. So the traffic study did have several addendums, and part of that was to update to take into account any background conditions, and which would have included any future development in the neighborhood.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and once again through you. I'd like to know a little bit more about, there's two exits. There's one exit in your plan along Smith and Maple, and I think it is going to be congested. I agree with you. But we also had Mance and Webster, and they could be at least a one-way exit. But why didn't, you sort of said, well, is it us that made that decision, or is the county made the decision? Because I think that, having access to 21 would be important. And I don't quite understand why we just sort of canceled both of those and decided to go with only the one exit. So I'd just like to know who technically said no or decided not to include these. Thank you.
So through the review, my understanding is that originally the proposal was to have an emergency only access from Maple to Mance, and the width of the road right-of-way that the municipality has is quite narrow. And so there was, the applicant had approached some of the neighboring landowners to see if they would be interested in conveying some of those lands to allow for that full access. There were also comments that had been received from MTO in terms of concerns and comments with respect to, is it an emergency access? What will the municipality control? And so maybe if Amberly had anything to add beyond that in terms of the municipal considerations, but it was determined that the emergency access was not required, and that traffic study had indicated that all traffic could be directed to Smith and Maple without having any undue impacts.
Councillor Blackwell, you had your hand up.
Actually, thank you. My question was very similar about having at least a one-way entrance or exit off Webster Street, just to maybe give some relief to the traffic that we're expecting. But I think the answer is that wouldn't be suitable, is generally what I'm hearing.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. This will finish my series of questions because I'm a little bit concerned about this. I'm very concerned after our Councillor Hitchberger talked about height. I didn't realize 12 meters. I was under the impression it was from grade to top. So these things could be 13, 14 feet or meters high, correct?
Yes, if you take into consideration the peak, that's correct.
Your average home's only about, I'm going to go in feet, I hope you don't mind, but your average home's only usually like 22 to 25 feet. And you've got towering things that are now going to be 40 feet. And, and you got third floor balconies and big windows. There is problems with invasion of privacy, but I'm also going to give you a little bit of an out. There's some enormous trees between some of the properties along Smith and the thing. So if we could retain some of those trees, you would basically allow a lot more privacy, but I'm not sure if this site plan is going to retain a lot of those trees, because most of those trees, they got to be 60 to 70 feet high. And the root structure would be on both private property and this new development. What is your sort of type of understanding with all those trees? Are we going to be able to retain them to at least give some sort of privacy to some of the existing dwellings there?
Thank you through you, Mayor Craig. So I don't know if I can necessarily answer whether any of those trees could be retained. That would be a matter to be considered at the site plan control stage in terms of tree preservation and the potential for landscape planting plan to replace those trees if there's opportunity with the space provided.
Technical question? Okay, Councillor Stanoff-Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I also had a question about the parking. Just if I could understand the parking spaces allocations, whether it's like the driveway parking plus assuming a vehicle could park in the garage, or what the parking is.
Yes, through you, Mayor Craig. So the applicant is meeting the parking requirements, which is 2 parking spaces per unit. So one would be in the driveway and one would be provided within the garage. The applicant is actually then exceeding the parking requirements. They do have parking above and beyond along the private road for both visitors, but also additional residential units should they require that. If I may, Mayor Craig, also through you, just with respect to the height provisions, in the surrounding R1 zone, which is what the properties surrounding this development are currently zoned, the maximum height permitted is 10.5 meters. So just for council's awareness.
And that's halfway up the roof. Okay, there we go. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I think that was, I had a similar question sort of about the trees and the parking, because there is the Forestry Act that manages boundary trees, and a lot of these trees look like they would be boundary trees. So does the applicant feel that if they're unable to remove some of those trees, that they'd still be able to make the design work in terms of the parking and the design overall?
Thank you, Mayor. I may defer that question to the agent on the file.
Hi there. You ready to go on that question?
Yes, I am.
Right
Just basically, it is something we can definitely take a look at through the site plan process. I don't think we've gotten to the point where we have a tree preservation plan ready, but that is definitely something we can assess through the site plan stage of the development process.
Okay, so now we're going to afford the public some opportunities for comment. At this point, I would ask, I'm sorry, what was your name from Cuesta again, please, sir?
My name is Nicholas Kohak from
Nicholas,
Cuesta.
okay. Did you have any further comments to make regarding the report for this condominium development?
Through the chair, I don't have any additional comments. I just wanted to say I agree with the staff recommendation, and again, I'm happy here to answer some other detailed questions as they come up.
Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor, in support of this application? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in support of this application? Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to this report?
Who wants to speak one way?
Yeah.
I will be speaking.
Yes. Nicole's mic still okay back there? Okay, yep. Your
Hello?
name, please, before you begin.
Yep, my name is Isabella Polova, and I'm the owner of the house on the corner of Maple and Smith Street. I understand that there's gonna be a roundabout built on that end of the road, if I'm correct.
We can address that to to Nicholas. Is there I'm not sure if she's referring to the cul-de-sac that will be built into
Yes,
the development.
So a cul-de-sac is proposed as an extension of Maple, and that will be the public portion there of the road. But yes, there will be a cul-de-sac.
Okay, yeah, so I have moved to the property in September last year, so this is fairly new to me. I really enjoyed my privacy and quietness and the fact that the road wasn't very busy. So I'm just wondering if there are any additional mitigation measures for adjacent residential properties. In this case, I'm seeking a fence around my house. I have 2 young children. You're increasing traffic tremendously for me. Now there's gonna be nighttime movement of vehicles, traffic lights, headlights on my property. You obviously, just like everyone else is concerned, there's reduced privacy. Now my house is no longer has no longer the same character as it did before, and being a corner lot with only one house across the road from me. I understand developments have to happen, people have to live somewhere, but I feel like there should be a little bit more safety measures taken in this case, and just the neighboring population can just be ignored, right? So I was wondering, I'm gonna input my request for additional mitigation measures, that being the fence around my property. Also, I have a lot of trees behind the house.
Thank you so much for that presentation. You identified your issue and you also identified a resolution to it. So we appreciate that. So
Thank you.
very
Thank you for your
much.
time.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, seeing none, I would declare the public meeting to be closed then. And we'll now address the recommendation from planning staff and have a conversation about that. So we need a mover and seconder that council approves zoning bylaw amendment Z 2023-023 by Braymark Homes and the necessary bylaw be forwarded to council for adoption. Moved by Deputy Mayor Inchberger and Councillor Williams. Discussion, please. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you. Through you, I'm curious whether we have the capacity to approve everything but the height restriction extension. Is it a package deal? Is it all or nothing, or is that one that we could consider separately?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Craig. So council has the opportunity to approve, deny, or defer the application. Certainly there can also be a motion brought forward to make changes to that. But I would suggest, if that was the council or direction that council wanted to go, that you seek to defer the application, just so that staff can also review if the request to change one amendment then triggers some other concern with the application, and then obviously have that conversation with the applicant as well. So that would be my recommendation if that was the direction council wanted to go.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I believe in growth. We need growth. We need houses and everything. I'm just worried about this one. And I'm worried about, and I don't know if I can ask, but, you know, I really worry about the trees and the site plan. And I would like to see a site plan already approved or already designed and then sort of combined. But I guess we have to do this before the site plan, or can we delay this and say, we need a site plan and take a real serious look at it? Because I think there's a real plus here. If we can preserve some of those trees, it sort of, you know, makes this whole development could move forward quite easily for me. But if we're going to have to rip down all the trees and everything, then I wouldn't support it at all. But I'm not sure. How can we move the site plan a little closer to us so we get to see exactly what's going to happen?
So I'm going to take a little whirl at that one, Councillor, and it's a reasonable question to consider. But Council has delegated the authority for site planning to our municipal staff, who takes into all those considerations about the opportunity for tree preservation, for privacy, for traffic flow, all those sorts of things. I think our responsibility tonight is to address the proposed zoning amendment, and you know, it's not our practice to get the site plan and then approve the zoning bylaw. We pass the zoning, this is what we intend it to be, and staff goes ahead and develops the site plan in cooperation with county and developer and all sorts of input. So I hear what you're asking, but we don't get to see the site plan to make our zoning amendment decision.
Makes my job easier.
Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just maybe one question for our county staff to better understand. I know there's a keeping community character in the official plan, and it talks about how it fits in. And I agree with Councillor Stewart in that we need to have development, we need to have houses, but this, with the height of it, it just feels like it's so stark compared to everything around it. We have one restaurant, we have a pizza shop. Do you know what I mean? There's not a lot of amenities with the amount of people that are, like the development that we're pursuing, which would imply that amenities are around. Like, I would just like to understand how we see this, because the original application was for less density and we've now increased the density. I would like to understand how we see that fitting, because obviously we have a requirement to meet the intent of the, provincial policy statement as well as the county official plan and ours. I understand all that, but it's just, if you could help me understand, yeah.
Thank you. So through you, Mayor Craig, the subject site is within the residential designation of the municipal official plan. And so in that designation, it does permit a broad range of housing types and uses. And because through the county official plan, Tiverton has been identified as a primary urban community, we try to direct most of the residential development to those areas. So in Tiverton, I would agree with you, it's primarily low density, single family homes. There have been some townhouse developments as well as approvals for other densities which have not yet been built out. And so in the residential designation, it does encourage through the official plan policies a mix of residential uses and residential building types. In this case, when it comes to neighborhood character and compatibility, compatibility doesn't mean necessarily like for like. So what the tests or what we look at through the planning process is, can these two uses, one being a higher or a medium density in this case, coexist without negatively impacting the other existing uses in the neighborhood or the planned uses in the neighborhood. So in this case, the townhouse development, it is meeting the density policies. We have looked at traffic. The applicant has submitted a traffic study. There has been confirmation of servicing. And so we look at those considerations as well as setbacks and height in terms of, is it compatible? Can they coexist moving forward? And for that reason, we're providing a recommendation in support of the application.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think I've hesitated to speak up because I don't have a direct question. I have more of a concern in my thoughts, if that's okay. I get what the developer is trying to do here. There's an infill lot that has great potential, although it's an awkward shape, and we're trying to fit something in and make something work because we need housing. So I understand why we're doing this and why we're considering it. However, I struggle with planning applications because of the process that our mayor talked about after responding to Councillor Stewart, that the planning process is, or sometimes feels a little bit backwards because we're approving something that will facilitate something we don't have all the details on, right? And so you have to wait for the site plan and trust that the site plan will address all the concerns. So there's lots of community concerns. I have my own concerns, which are similar to some of those, including the tree retention, because and what really concerns me the most is that given the limited information I have right now, I actually don't think that the site plan can address the tree retention in the way that it's currently proposed. And, but we're leaning on that. We have to lean on that. So this is more of like an information for everyone to think about. We have to use that tool. And really it's the developer that's taking the risk here, because if that site plan process cannot address all the issues, they can't move forward, and they've already put all their effort and money into this. And so I guess we have to trust the process and trust our planning people to make sure the right things are done.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Change is hard. And I think it's hard for us to look at the situation and say that as far as housing, that the status quo is working. And we've largely got where we are today on the backs of single detached homes on slightly larger lots spreading across the countryside. And we kind of convince ourselves that that's the best way to do it, or it's environmentally friendly. But if you lump them all together, it actually isn't. So there's a part of me that thinks here is we've got to be cautionary that you're walking yourselves potentially into an appeals situation right off the bat. So status quo is not working. The province set some policies. County passed official plans. The municipality passed local plans. They got people who know their stuff to look at densities and stuff like that. I just, it's not a realistic expectation to live in a settlement area and that it will never change. Because in some ways, it was change that occurred that resulted in you being able to live where you do. And then the last thing I will just say is like, I like to be consistent. And when I always talk to Councillor Steinhoff-Gray, I always say, Tiverton must change. And I say, when I drive through Lucan, I can see what Tiverton could be. Not exactly. And also on the subject of housing, I don't look at any of these in isolation. When we improve, and that doesn't mean drastically, the supply of residential housing by various mix, like this one, townhouses or apartments, and we do this closer to the Bruce site, knowing the situation there and pending changes coming, we're also having domino effects that alleviate other things that people are concerned about. For instance, traffic congestion on 21 or the B line, by, as a result of what's historically happened, where is a lot of the residential development in us has actually occurred south of the municipality of Kincardine and results in daily traffic flow through us rather than, putting it there. So just back to change is hard. It is hard. It is hard. I think that one thing I've learned over the course of this term about trees, trees that are removed can be replanted. And one of the difficulties with a site plan, and I think there's a lot of examples in our municipality, including in Tiverton, where we suffer from how to deal with stormwater drainage. And in many cases, what you have to do to a site related to trees initially is largely because not only is there not an ideal location usually for housing that nobody owns and isn't already spoken for, but the grading is rarely set up in an ideal manner to deal with it. So if I hate to say it, like I love trees, but I don't love every tree. And if you don't take advantage or deal with the stormwater issue and the drainage issue, you can think you're doing a good job, but you're just creating a problem that you're going to live with for decades. So change is hard.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. I still had one thing left. So through you, Chair, you talk about drainage using is it the Nile? It's such a major river, but the Nile actually feeds into the Tiverton River, and it goes all the way down through Inverhuron to the lake. And we've experiencing some flooding recently. One of the things is it's not up to the developer because that's a very small, but it's some consideration for planners when you're starting to look in the flatlands and then into everything's got to drain into the lake. We need to take a bigger scope of this because you're going to have water coming faster into the Nile, which will go faster in Tiverton Creek, that if it doesn't end up in the lake, it usually ends up on one of my properties. So, it's just in the future, you need to take a look at the whole system. You said it didn't have an impact on watershed. It does have an impact on watershed. So I just wanted to tell you that, we've experienced it. So anything that comes from Tiverton usually goes down by two rivers. So you have to be careful. Thank you.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just in response to Councillor Stewart's comments for everyone's awareness, any stormwater management plan is required to ensure that downstream impacts, that flow is not increased, so there are no negative flooding impacts. And while Saugeen Valley does not necessarily regulate stormwater itself, it does regulate flooding, so they do review those plans. I did that myself for almost 5 years. I understand what goes into it and the time it takes to look through those. So I would like to think we can trust the Sauget Valley staff and our municipal staff to ensure that those stormwater management plans are meeting the requirements and ensuring that there's no negative impacts off-site.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I don't have an issue so much with the density. I have a little bit of a challenge with the height because it's not being requested. It's just providing flexibility. So I'm not sure whether anyone else would be supportive of deferring it to get a more finalized decision on the height before we make a decision on that. Do I need to make a motion or? Okay. Then I'd like to make a motion that we defer the application until clarity can be received on the height.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Steinhoff Gray, is there any discussion about deferring? Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes. Well, I appreciate the concern. I would say that we regularly entertain minor variance applications for things like height. So it seems a bit inconsistent to want to apply it in one area where we've actually approved the minor variance to increase it in another. Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion to defer. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's defeated. Back to the original motion. We have a motion on the floor to approve zoning bylaw amendment by Braemark Homes and the necessary bylaw be forwarded. All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? And that's carried. All right, we move on to, next on the agenda is a planning recommending report for file number S 2025-0003, L 2025-008, and Z 2025-020. This is not a public meeting under the Planning Act, as it was held on January 28th. And we have Planner Julie Steeper providing an update on the application. Is Ms. Steeper online? Oh, here we go.
Yes, I am. Good evening.
The floor is yours.
I will be brief with my presentation as my report goes into more detail. The applications were presented at a public meeting in January by my colleague Jake. The proposal is to create a residential subdivision consisting of 32 single detached lots fronting onto a proposed new municipal road identified on the draft plan as Street A. The development will connect to municipal water services and utilize private tertiary septic systems. The plan includes a large open space block identified as Block 36, intended to protect significant natural heritage features and implement the recommendations of the environmental impact study. Supporting technical information has been provided in response to agency and public comments. These updates include revisions to the water balance analysis that eliminates the need for additional water balance mitigation measures. The remaining technical requirements have been formalized through draft plan conditions, which include the preparation and implementation of a tree preservation plan and addressing matters such as environmental protection, servicing, stormwater management through a subdivision agreement. The local official plan amendment application is to redesignate a portion of the subject lands from natural environment to shoreline development. The zoning bylaw amendment application will rezone the lands to permit the development, but it also includes site-specific provisions to permit a reduced minimum lot area, lot frontage, and to increase the maximum driveway width. Based on the review of all materials, agency, and public comments and applicable policies, staff are recommending that council approve the application subject to the draft plan conditions and necessary agreements. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Julie. So we have a resolution here. I need a mover and seconder that council request that the County of Bruce Approval Authority approve draft plan of subdivision S 2025-003 by Bogdanovich Developments, Inc. in accordance with the draft plan and conditions of draft approval attached. That county adopt local official plan amendment L 2025-008 and the necessary bylaw be forwarded to Bruce County for approval, and that council approve zoning bylaw amendment Z 2025-020 as attached, and the necessary bylaw be forwarded to council for adoption. Moved by councillors Blackwell and Deputy Mayor Hinchberger. Discussion. Councillor Prenger.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'll say I thought a lot about this one. There are thousands of pages to review for this application. No, you have to go into the supporting documents, which there are tons of them, and there are hundreds of pages per document. It's a lot of work, so I appreciate everyone doing what they could to look at this. And I will admit, I did not fully read every single page that was attached, every single thousands of the pages. But I did my best to review the parts that pertained to the areas that I am concerned with the most. In particular, I'll start here because I don't want to take too long before someone else gets to say something. So I'll just say the environmental assessment, sorry, the EIS. Yes, thank you. I will say I find lacking sufficient evidence to convince me that this is an appropriate approach for this property. There were deficiencies in several of the reports that make me concerned for the overall thoroughness of this process in general and the conclusions that have been come to, because to me they would be based on lacking evidence from several sources. And I have a couple comments about the planning report specifically.
Oh, can I just hold that thought? There was a question in there, and I just want to ask our planner, Ms. Steeper. So you were concerned of the thoroughness of the EIS, environmental impact statement? Okay. From an approval agency lens, is the environmental impact statement sufficient, or was it concluded to be less than sufficient to support this application?
If I may, through you, Mayor. So my colleague Jake actually did the review of the EIS as well as myself, but from a lens of the requirements that that an EIS needs to meet, and from that, there are mitigation measures that are required to be facilitated, but the outcome of that EIS was sufficient to a standard that is required with those measures in place.
Okay, so broadly speaking, it was approved, but I appreciate that you had some concerns. Were there specific concerns that you had there that you could draw to the planner's attention that there could be maybe a deeper dive into?
So
I'm trying to help you out here to keep the focus narrow rather than just saying it was all wrong. What specifically needs to be addressed?
Sure. Well, let me just say, this was my little statement I made up. In my opinion, the EIS does not demonstrate or provide sufficient evidence to confidently conclude that there will be no negative impacts on environmental and natural heritage features. And the applicable planning policies, including our PPS, the county OP, and the municipality of Kincardine OP, state that significant habitat or woodlands cannot be developed unless no negative impact has been demonstrated. There were limitations to the EIS that that stopped the consultant from identifying habitat for several species. And I'll be honest, I didn't write out every single thing because there is a letter from Tara Wood dated January 10th in the planning report that outlines almost everything I also noticed, as well as additional ones. and she does it better than I could have. And so if anyone is interested in understanding the deficiencies, at least the most important ones, I encourage you to go look at that letter from Ms. Tara Wood. It is in the planning report. And that was gonna be my last thing, Mayor. You made me skip ahead to it, but that's okay. Okay, how about we just do this? On page 10, under density, the proposed configuration will be of a higher density than is generally described within the shoreline development designation given the reduced lot size and frontage. This higher density within the area proposed for development is balanced by the large undeveloped conservation block. I'm failing to understand how leaving a portion undeveloped balances high density residential. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't relate to the density at all. So I would love to hear an explanation of that, because perhaps I'm just missing something.
Ms. Steeper, comment on that question? Like there's a thought of, just tell me if I'm not saying this right, is it better to have a little higher density with a corresponding area of no development, or is it further ahead to have less development, like a larger lot size and less intensive development? What is there? Is that kind of the question?
Well, sort of, except the undeveloped portion is sort of is a moot point. You cannot develop it. It's a wetland. So it's not like they're leaving space intentionally to make up for. It's just the way it has to be.
Any comment on that, Ms. Steeper, please?
Yes, if I may, through you, Mayor. So I just want to keep an eye on the density question, because this actually isn't high density. This is single detached low density residential development. When I'm balancing the policies and the context of the site, I think, in my opinion, in review of these contexts, we're kind of balancing the proposed use, the low density next to environmental features. And so in this case, the context of the development proposed, this is where I'm saying I believe the density is reasonable in nature to allow in this instance.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the time. I'll come back to you. Yeah, on that point, yes, go ahead.
Thank you, and I apologize. Just to clarify, the wording of higher density, I didn't mean in terms of high density as defined by like condos, that type of density. It was literally the wording in the planning report that was used, and I was quoting it. So I believe my interpretation was that it was written to simply talk about the smaller lot sizes, which made it higher, in theory, higher density than having larger lot sizes, but individual residential. So I just used the terminology that was in there as a direct quote.
Very appropriate. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and just to, through you, Chair, would the county entertain having, I know that Jake's away and everything, and he did the peer review in-house on the EIS, correct?
That is correct, if I may, through you, Mayor. Yes, that is correct. He provided comments, and his comments are attached to the report.
Could the council ask for a peer review from an outside agency on the EIS tonight?
If I may, through you, Mayor, I might direct that question to the Senior Development Planner, Karina.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Craig. So certainly we would respond to a motion from council if that was the direction, to have that peer reviewed.
We're gonna just jot that down. We'll come back to that.
I know. I'm not going to do that. I was going to ask another question.
Okay, we'll move on. Councillor Williams had a question.
Thank you, through you. Are we only asking questions, or can I make a comment without a question? All right. So I have thought, I've thought about this one a lot as well, and I'm probably not going to articulate kind of my concerns as thorough as Councillor Pranger has. But in general, from the beginning when this was presented, this whole application just makes me really uncomfortable. I do think it's a terrible location to add more houses because of the surrounding EP lands and knowing what we know about the current issues around stormwater drainage. We know there's issues with homes flooding along the lakeshore in general. And really, I don't think we're doing a service to existing residents or future residents who buy these homes by building on this property. Now, with all that said, I'm not even sure that, a lot of the homes should have even built there in the first place, but they're there. And I'm not sure if we could kind of add to that problem. I don't even think we should have potentially zoned it PD in the first place, just looking at the area. And I think we're really doing a disservice even to the developer here by having done that. Now, with all that said, that's been done and it is zone PD, but I just think that it's at a point where we just should not be developing that kind of density on this property.
Councillor Stanoff-Gray, I think I saw a flash of hand go up there.
I had similar concerns after reading Tara's submission, based on some gaps that I saw in like the timing of the reviews and content there. I'll admit I had sent a message to Jen, knowing her background with the Sucking Conservation Authority, for some guidance. So from my perspective, I was aligned with everything that Councillor Pranger has said. It was a concern for me based on what we're being asked to change some of the zoning from. I think we have a responsibility to ensure that that's acceptable. The only other concern I'd had, which the councillor to my right here has brought up, Councillor Williams, was with the stormwater, because we know that we've had a lot more flooding than we're used to as of late because of the excessively larger water events than we are used to experiencing. So that obviously comes as a care and consideration. So I'm not necessarily convinced that this isn't with adverse impacts, but I'll wait to see the questions that come from the rest of the table.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, my question was about stormwater. Based on the comments made during the public planning meeting and some of the fact that it would become a municipal drain, it was my understanding that this would actually improve drainage for both the existing land as well as potentially surrounding lands. Is that a correct mental model?
Ms. Steeper, please.
If I may, through you, Mayor. So the drain is currently privately owned, and so through this application, that would become would be conveyed to the municipality, and with that would be maintenance and such on a scheduled basis. So it would be anticipated that that it would not have any impact down the line, and that potentially could be improved given that it would be maintained.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through your chairs, just to continue on as this theme, the drainage actually is the responsibility of right now. It goes under the county road and the county ditches. So basically, we get incredible amount of water from the flatlands that goes into the ditch underneath the road under culvert, and then goes through this property development, then goes into a private ditch all the way down to the lake. I'm not quite sure how this is going to improve things, but we're also going to take it over as a municipality. And how are we going to have access? This is private property. This lot 36 is still owned by the developer. And there's a lot of places along our friends along the Eastwood Crescent that use this ditch for their own drainage. Have you done a complete study? I mean, once again, we're still, and one of the problems when you're dealing with these kind of neighborhoods, you piecemeal them. You basically have Huron Highlands and Ken Huron. I think there was 3 or 4 major developments, and if we did it all at once under a subdivision, we'd have a proper drainage program. but we do have open ditches and we do have problems with ditches, and the drainage could be a problem. It might not be for the development, but it certainly could be for the ones that are downstream into the lake because it's all open. I really do think that we need to step back on this, and there's been a lot of people in the neighborhood that have written complaints and everything, or issues, and you have addressed some of them. They're a little surprised by the meeting tonight. They thought they were going to be better informed, but they weren't. But, you know, I guess I'm going to have to make that motion. I'll let other people talk, but I'm probably going to have to make a motion that we're going to have to probably get a peer review on the environmental EIS from an outside, because, you know, Jake's not here to defend himself, which is unfortunate because he did the peer review. So, you know, I don't know, when is Jake planning to be back?
That's likely not a question of whether or when a staff member would be back. It would be, you know, there is capable staff filling in for him, so they can, if it's the desire of council to ask for any changes or any further studies, like the present staff can do that sort of thing.
If I may, through you, Mayor Craig. So just with respect to the request for a peer review of the EIS, so Jake Boesfield Bastido, who is the former planner on this file, is also the county's natural heritage reviewer. He is our in-house staff person who conducts those reviews. And so I can't speak entirely to Jake's background, but he is a former Conservation Authority staff member at the time when conservation authorities were reviewing for natural heritage matters, and is qualified to undertake those reviews. I also supervise Jake, and I am a certified environmental professional through Eco Canada, and I am also a former Conservation Authority staff member with 17 years of experience providing natural heritage review. So I did oversee Jake in his review of this file. Jake's comments are included in the record, but again, if it is this council's direction, we can certainly send that out for peer review. We do have two consulting firms that provide peer review services to the county, and we use those in cases where Jake is not available, his capacity is limited, or it may be a file that has issues that are outside of his scope. So we can certainly send that. There would be an additional cost to the proponent to cover that peer review.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. If I read the room right, a bit of what I would consider rightful affront to having professional competency questioned, and I would agree with it. I look at the map of Bruce County maps in here. Let's be realistic. The whole shoreline area would be EP1 or EP2. We're attempting to apply an nth degree standard to a parcel of land that was never applied to anything else and is way above anything else that was done before. It's like you look at the other side of the street on Parkwood. Every one of those ones, Kinhuron went plan of subdivision entered in 1971. We're here 54 years later, and I think we all could recognize that the bar as far as what you have to go through in terms of development and studies is an order of magnitude greater than it was before. And yet we want to poke holes in the technical analysis, and many of us come from technical backgrounds, and we want to poke holes in it. Like the other side of Parkwood, on the north side of Parkwood, is zoned residential, and I don't believe for a minute that the dividing line between what, you know, in actuality is EP and residential is a road. I think that there has been a lot of, the standards are much higher. There's much more engineering involved. You wouldn't get away today with putting in houses and just having drainage via open ditch. And yet I personally think that we're really overly focused on, you know, whether that high bar is being met. Pulling back again, I have a general belief that we have a housing problem in the country, in the province, in the county, and in the municipality. And in the municipality of Kincardine, all areas of the municipality, whether that's the town of Kincardine, the shoreline, Inverhuron, or Tiverton, have a role to play, albeit modestly. I don't think anybody's proposing that we go hog wild and, you know, scorch the land and put houses in there. But I look at this and I see we are in a position right now. There is no ideal property not spoken for by somebody. It's all going to be compromised. We do the best that we can, and I think that's where we are. I think we're skirting around the essence of the matter. That's just my personal opinion, and I respect that other people have different ones.
Councillor Pranger, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I don't necessarily disagree with what Councillor Hinchberger said, at least not in total. I agree with a bunch of it. However, looking at this one and even the reports along with it, including the EIS, that said that canopy coverage in Kincardine is down to 17%. And natural heritage, which is the EP2 zone, is supposed to be protecting significant woodlands. And this was applied to the shoreline area, the significant woodlands, on purpose, intentionally, to protect these lands. And they're proposing to literally just wipe out acres of it based on a tree retention plan that suggests saving some trees along the beeline mitigates the impacts to the woodland and the endangered species that were found in it, including an endangered tree, as well as threatened species, and several species that were identified that they were possible to be there, but they never saw them. They're going to eliminate their habitat based on saying, well, we're not eliminating all of it because we're saving some trees on the backside of the houses, and that amounts to a certain percentage, and therefore we meet a percentage criteria. And to me, that's manipulating requirements in order to get what you want. And I actually don't think it's sufficient. I personally don't think they've met the criteria for showing that changing the zoning on the EP2 is acceptable, for lack of a better word. And based just on principle that the effort was not put in to convince me of that, I can't support it.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I appreciate the various perspectives and the different knowledge that everyone's bringing to the table here. When I look at this application, the application was initiated before our zoning bylaw was updated, and so much of this land was not previously zoned environmental protected when they would have started this application process a couple years ago. But so there's been a couple of conversations. One is the environmental impact. The other is the drainage. And I think the drainage piece, and this is a great, knowing now all of our planners' background, maybe they can help me with this. But from my understanding, the block is intended to be, the remaining large block, the wetland block, is intended to be conveyed to a conservation area or conservation organization, and we would have access to maintain the drain. So there's also regulations around you're not actually able to increase flooding or water onto any other property. That's a Ontario provincial regulation. So that's something that, you know, we can obviously be unhappy with the amount of water currently, but they would be restricted. Maybe that's more of a question. They would be restricted from doing anything to like increase the amount of water going onto existing properties. And there is an expectation, if it's a municipal drain, we would then be responsible for maintaining it in such a state that it could potentially actually improve the drainage.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Craig. So through any development application, they are required to manage their stormwater on their own site, both from a quantity control, so ensuring that the volume of water is retained and appropriate released into the drainage feature. And so the municipality does and had requested through the conditions of draft plan approval a condition that would require conveyance of that drainage block, which is currently outside of the draft plan of subdivision, as well as an easement along there so that there was appropriate space for municipal staff to maintain that feature. And that had been, the site has been walked by BM Ross, the town's peer review engineer.
Councillor Steiner, Councillor Kavanaugh, sorry.
Thank you very much, and through the chair. This one has gone back and forth several times, and with several different opinions being offered for it of why we should or shouldn't proceed. I'd like to use this opportunity to just sort of share where my head is at for not just my fellow councillors, but the general public. This process has been followed all the way through, and we're at a point now where the objections that I've heard specifically to this plan have largely been raised on the grounds of I don't trust or I don't believe the accuracy of the numbers provided by the professionals that were paid to provide the opinion. The challenge that I face is if you were to vote against this and turn this down at this council on the principle that you simply didn't trust or believe in the professionals doing their job, it would get appealed and we would lose, and the taxpayers would eat an even bigger penalty on top of it. And so I personally struggle with, yes, I know no one wants housing built next to them. And I also, as someone who has recently, refinished a basement because of flooding that happened along the lakeshore from a subdivision that was planned, 20 or 30 years ago, I understand that concern of dealing with water and wastewater. But I can't for the life of me see an argument that could be made that the municipality could use as a defense to justify turning down this proposal.
Councillor Steinoff, Gray, please.
I think for me, and maybe this is because I'm a layman, I'm not going to purport to be a specialist in this particular area. This isn't my wheelhouse necessarily. So I'm not going to pretend to be the specialist. I just want to be clear. But when you're reading the reports that we're all accountable around this table to read, there is some language where, like it says, for like example, the barred owl, it says you should look within a 200-meter range, but then it sounds like we didn't actually do that, but we checked these other things. So when you read the documentation that you've given us, it tells me a standard, and then I don't meet that standard. And so for me, I don't need to be a technical expert to question why a standard was given to me that was not met. So if you could help me understand that, I would gladly fall in line with my fellow councillors.
Yes, thank you through you, Mary Craig. So I can't speak to that specific example, but certainly when we review any document from a professional, we do have to take into consideration their professional credentials as well. And we review it against the policies and the provincial guideline document, the Natural Heritage Reference Manual, to determine whether it's meeting those standards and, of course, other pieces of legislation, including formally the Environmental Species Protection Act. As it relates to quality of the studies that are provided, certainly even in our own reviews, when we review some of those documentation, it's not clear from the work that's provided how they address certain requirements, and we did have a lot of back and forth with this proponent before we even deemed this application complete, seeking some further clarification on the work that they had initially provided. And so I can't speak, like I said, to specifics of that, but certainly I would suggest that there may be issues in the reports, but in totality, we think they've met the requirements of the policies of the province and the local municipality.
Okay, so everybody gets opportunity to say one more thing, and then we're going to go to a vote. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Lots of things are happening, especially with the provincial government trying to do housing, and we're all facing the facts now. And the mayor and I just went through quite a county meeting, and we'll talk about that later, but same sort of issues. This is a very sensitive area. The PBS is allowing higher densities than we've ever seen in these areas before, and they're demanding it almost. I mean, you know, you look at the density of this proposal, it's fairly high density. Even if you think it's low, compared to the surrounding area, it's a high density sort of type of development. And it's a city type of development where the other development surrounding area is more rural sort of type of development. They do have open ditches. They don't all have street lights. They do not all have sidewalks and everything else. So culturally, it does have an impact on it. You know, I like to see development. I like to see development in that area from the beeline to the lake. I like to see a lot of infilling if it could happen. But I would also like to have some development with larger lots. You know, when you start talking these city-sized lots, it just doesn't fit in. And I think it upsets the local community. So, you know, that's a comment. So, you know, it's going to be very difficult for me to support this, you know, and it's unfortunate because I like the housing. I like the developer. I think they're a great family and they develop wonderful properties. But, you know, I just can't see the intensity right now. I'm sorry.
Councillor Pranger.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Excuse me, sorry. I will respectfully stand by my opinion of my review of the EIS and such that the evidence provided by it does not sufficiently demonstrate that there will be no negative impacts on the natural heritage features on the property, and therefore I would not be able to support this proposal. And just one other thing is that I hope the proponent is aware of the changes at with the conservation authorities, and that conveyances or sales of property to conservation authorities has sort of a soft freeze right now, so that might not be possible. It would have conservation authority is not allowed to approve that on their own at the moment, and it would have to go way up the chain for that to happen. So that might actually not be possible, and therefore would not be a supporting action to facilitate this proposal.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. I'm supportive of this application overall. There's for a number of reasons, which I'm happy to speak with if anyone is interested. But I have two quick points. One is there were changes to species at risk and environmental policies by the province last May. So I'm unclear whether this EIS even would have impact anymore if it was to be redone, how much of those species would actually not be included anymore. But the other was something that often comes up during planning applications. And again, I'll direct this to the planners from the county. It was mentioned to me, you know, approving this kind of housing isn't good for affordability, or it's not going to be affordable housing. When we're asked to make planning decisions, we're required to make those justifications of a yes or a no vote based on planning criteria, and price point of an application is not a planning criteria. I'm just wanting some confirmation of that, because that's my understanding, that we are not able to support or not support an application based on what the perceived price of the application eventually will be for sale.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor Craig. So that is correct. Price point would not be a planning consideration. If I may just add something in terms of supply of housing. So through both the municipal and county policies, it does identify a threshold or a percentage of new development that should be affordable. But that's a target, and it's not meant for every development, and it's not particularly being referenced in respect to this application. However, increasing the supply overall of housing does provide additional opportunities, either for movement of others in the community who might be downsizing, or maybe they're looking to upside to something else, and that then provides additional units available for others that are looking for a specific unit type.
Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you. I think what I'm hung up on in particular, again, it's not a suitable property, but the drainage issue, and there is a reference in the one kind of feedback like the concerns and then the responses where I just pulled out like a quote. It says the proposed development is not intended to resolve or remediate existing drainage deficiencies within the broader area. And so I think there is an acknowledgement that this development will not help improve the current drainage issues and recognize that there are issues to begin with. And it does acknowledge that it would not worsen them. And so I think what I'm hung up on is we're building a development that is not going to help the surrounding area and that potentially might not even benefit, again, the people that live in the new development, because we're also assuming a responsibility for this drainage, and there's an additional liability on the municipality should it not be properly resolved or addressed. And so I think what it comes down to for me, again, it's not, I don't think the property is suitable, but I also don't think, similar to my fellow councillor, that the proper due diligence has really been put in place to make sure that all risks and mitigation factors have been addressed.
Councillor Steinhoff-Gray, please.
I'm just wondering, based on where we are in this particular position, if it would be right to consider a deferral until we can get clarifications for staff, for council. Wrong word came out of my mouth. I apologize.
CAO, please.
Our planning staff may wish to comment, but it's my understanding that we have reached the time threshold with this application, and so should a decision not be taken tonight, one way or the other, through either a deferment or should the application be turned down, that the proponent is likely to appeal. And in that case, because council is choosing not to proceed with the direction that's been provided, you will be retaining independent planning advice to go forward from there.
Councillor Kavanagh, please. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you through the chair. Just to show that I have some ability to argue the other point of view, just as I'm reading this in here. Just because if I bring up appeal, I got to be able to challenge my own part. The only thing I wonder in here is where you're, I'm just reading the shoreline development section of the Kincardin's local official plan and lots serviced by private waste disposal or private water. Minimum lot size 4,000 square meters unless a smaller lot size supported by a hydrological report and sewage disposal report, which it was done. In no case shall lots for new development on partial service be less than 1,426 square meters. And the requested, I think, is under that, but a little over 1,000. And then it also says an average frontage of 30 meters shall also be maintained. The front to depth ratio should be a maximum of 1 to 3. So I think I have to be fair to say that if, we're raising the specter of being appealed, we've got ostensibly an official plan that lines up with the county's plan and the provincial policy statement. Just saying.
There's a motion on the floor that council requests the County of Bruce to approve draft plan of subdivision, county adopt local official plan amendment, and the council approve the zoning bylaw amendment. All in favor of the...
I think there's enough recorders here that it'll be recorded. It's a tough one. Well, I look at it. It's a tough one.
Okay, we will call for a recorded vote. Councillor Stewart?
No.
Councillor Williams?
No.
Councillor Steinhoff-Gray?
No.
Councillor Kavanagh?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hinchberger?
Yes.
Councillor Blackwell?
Yes.
Councillor Prenger?
No.
And Mayor Craig?
Yes. So the motion is defeated. Okay, moving on to Kincardine water treatment plan upgrades. And thank you to the residents who have come to listen You're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of our exciting council meeting. Or, excuse me, thank you very much for your attention this evening. Okay, moving on to the Kincardine Water Treatment Plant upgrades, Bruce Power water tender. Yep, until a few people absent themselves. More council members than anyone else, so. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion before us this evening. We need a mover and seconder that council award contract number RFT ES 2026-9500-2 Kincardine Water Treatment Plant Capacity Upgrades Project to Baseline Constructors, Inc. in the amount of $11,768,544, inclusive of non-refundable HST contingency and allowances. Further, the council approve a budget amendment for Project 9500 Bruce Power Water Supply Kincardine Water Treatment Plant upgrades in the amount of $2,762,495 to fund the cost overage for the municipality's share of project costs exceeding the approved capital budget. And further, that $2,079,539 of the overage be funded from the Water Reserve Fund 68, and $682,957 of the overage funded temporarily from the buy-in contribution. Moved by Councillors Kavanagh and Deputy Mayor Hinchberger. Discussion. Deputy Mayor, please.
I'll start out by saying ouch. But this is an example where when you set up a budget, and whether you call it a class 5 or a D or a letter estimate, the plus or minus X percentages sometimes can show themselves up in material ways, particularly for ones that are large value. The only other thing I would say is that I thought there might be at least one person in attendance tonight who might be thinking loud enough that I could hear them that maybe this is the kind of thing for which you have a contingency reserve. And then I think where a large part of our contingency reserve this term went to healthcare. So we made a choice. The rooster came home to roost. I think also, although it's not water, it's wastewater, and I think we're dealing with a current situation which might have benefited with some forethought and a sizable expenditure several years ago to address an issue such that we wouldn't end up here today where we are. So I think necessary evil is too strong a word here, but I think that bite the bullet and get on with it.
If I might rephrase that, it is an opportunity for partnership to achieve the goals that you have to do anyway. So, Councillor Stewart, please.
Well, through you, Mayor, I'm going to be the absolutely negative. This is scary. This is not ouch. This is a big ouch. This is going to put us in jeopardy. When you start taking that much money out of the water reserve, it's not going to leave us with a lot of water reserve in the future. You just say it in the report. As additional draws on the water reserve fund will now be required, staff will be reviewing the 2027 budget and may require certain water infrastructure projects to be deferred. Yeah, how many years are we going to defer it? We're legally responsible for the water. We go to jail if we don't do it. So how many of these projects in the future could jeopardize the safety of our community? We're supplying Bruce Power. We're trying to supply Bruce Power. They're a private enterprise. And you're going to risk the community on this? This is ridiculous. Bruce Power, hold on. Bruce Power.
No, Councillor Stewart. There is nothing in the report that suggests anything about risking the health and safety of our own community. There's nothing in the report that suggests anything about deferring any projects that are going to put anybody at risk.
It's right in the report. It's called deferring. Read it.
Yes, deferring did not say anything about risking the health. So we are going to continue to rely on our professional staff to make recommendations that support the provision of safe, clean, sufficient water for our municipality. Kim, would you like to respond to any of those budget considerations? And having said that, I do understand what you're saying. I understand that, but the suggestion that there's a risk to the health is a little farther than we need to go this evening.
Time will prove that, won't it, Mayor?
Through you, Your Worship, this project was considered carefully, and staff make the recommendation to proceed with the full awareness that we are at a point in time. So right now, yes, these are the financial implications today. It was shared with all of council that Kincardine has already been advised that we have priority access to make application to the Building Canada Strong Fund for another water project. And we will continue to seek support for our water and wastewater projects in order to ensure that we do our very best to maintain appropriate reserve levels. But I can totally assure you, Councillor, that staff would do nothing that would put in jeopardy the very regulated quality and quantity requirements that we are legislated to meet when it comes to our water supply.
Question.
Absolutely. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you again, it's just not the safety. And I might agree with you, might disagree with you, because when you have a restriction of funds, something goes. I've seen it in the past. Anyways, also, it's the financial. You know, the financial. We have so many projects on the go right now that we have we have the Tiverton Water, 2.7 million. It's going to come out of, we're going to have to borrow the money. We still have Kitchener, or Kincardine Avenue. It's $1 million. It's in the contingency fund. We haven't even decided how to finance that. We're bringing on a school. There is going to be some additional money there. I mean, when are we going to end up? We are spending more money than we really have right now. We're going to have to cut back. There is ramps on this agreement. The ramps were designed. If we wanted to ramp off, we could ramp off. I think that we need to probably go back to Bruce Power, or go back to maybe even OPG, who will be getting some water, and say, listen, we can't afford this extra $3 million. It wasn't in the original budget. You're 79% over budget. And if you're willing to approve this, and the council looks like tonight it's going to approve it, I think this is as bad as a decision as we did with the monument. And this is going to have some huge repercussions with the community. So that's the end of it. Let's go for a vote, and if you believe in it, well, you're going to hear it back from the community, because I think financially we're going to jeopardize ourselves. I do not see our treasurer here. Is there a reason why our treasurer's not here? Was she asked to be here?
The report is in its entirety, Councillor. I don't think we need any more details. Our staff does not make recommendations that they haven't vetted and verified, so we'll go from there. Councillor Kavanagh, you had a question?
Not so much a question, but just a different perspective, perhaps, to show. Instead of being, let's say, highly critical, to put a nice way on it, I instead see this as an opportunity of partnership and moving forward and planning for a future. I look back at the old projects that were, on the books, and some of the old binders that were shared with me from 2005 all the way up to 2015. And I look at them and I think, this should have been done 15 years ago, right? The second we knew Bruce A and Bruce B were coming back online and we started to go, this should have happened with MCR. And it's going to happen now because we're planning for a future that is coming. Yes, it seems scary, but for another councillor to stand there and try and make it sound like, we're at the end of our rope or we're in a bad spot. We are very fortunate to be one of the most secure financially municipalities in Ontario. And when you look at even at the breakdown of this specific overage, right? Like you see there's a breakdown of share percentage. The Bruce Power share represents 57.53%, and the municipal share represents 42.47%. When you see that broken down, and you look at it in terms of a balance of working with something that's going to grow and develop and bring more prosperity and security to our area, it's easy to say this cost should have happened 15 years ago, and we're going to do it to make sure it happens now.
Thank you, through your chair. A couple of issues. You're right. I do have my colleague, I do agree with my colleague that this does raise some questions about this expenditure, what it means for the water financial plan and the finances that go through with it. One thing that I'll point out is that the deferral that my colleague referred to, I'm pretty sure from the report, was they looked to defer 2027 projects. There was no commitment to anything beyond that and what that might look like. I agree with my colleague over here about us being, relatively speaking, above the median quite a bit in terms of our finances. Despite all of our best efforts, myself and yourself included, to knock down our operating surpluses every year, we do run operating surpluses, which can help make up any difference that we have like that. I was just today with the mayor at a West Ontario Power annual general meeting, and there is this looming sale on the horizon, which also provides additional revenue that nobody seems to be talking about right now, which will be sizable and provides flexibility. The other thing I would say is the second project that we haven't talked about, the one about the pipeline, that's the one that's most Bruce Power specific. The one at the water treatment plant is to upgrade the water treatment plant, and in addition to being able to provide more water than it does longer term, it actually improves its ability to provide quality water now and reserve capacity. Part of the overage is estimated to give it flexibility, because as we get a little bigger, when we have to do things on the Kincardine water treatment plant, we aren't always going to be able to rely on here in Kinloss to valve themselves into us and sustain us. The last thing I'm going to say on a point of privilege, you don't know how hard it is for me to take the high road right now on the Secord Monument comment, so I'm just cautioning you. The only thing I will say is that at least the rest of the council didn't sit out the whole process until the very end.
Okay.
I take exception to that comment.
Okay. We're going to stop now. Thank you.
Let's go for a vote. Record it.
Call. Okay. Thank you, Councillor. We'll do that. Deputy Clerk, please.
Okay, so we will call for a recorded vote. Councillor Stewart,
Absolutely not.
Councillor Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hinchberger,
Yes.
Mayor Craig.
Yes. And that carried. The inline booster pump station and water main extension, Bruce Power water tender, environmental services. We need a mover and seconder. The council award contract number ES 2026-9500-1, inline booster pump station and water main extension to Burnham Excavating Limited in the amount of $4,646,619.12, including non-refundable HST. And further, the council approve a budget amendment to Project 9500, Bruce Power Water Supply Project, to include the inline booster pump station and water main extension project in the amount of $4,646,619.12, fully funded by Bruce Power in accordance with the Bruce Power Water Services Agreement. Moved by Councillors Kavanaugh and Deputy Mayor. Discussion? Councillor Stewart, please.
So what I'm reading here through you, Mayor, I'm reading that we're going to have to bring it through our capital budget now, and then our friends at Bruce Power are going to pay us back? Because that's what it reads right here, is that we're going to inadvertently omitted it from our capital budget, so we have to get some sort of funding source. So are we doing temporary funding, or is Bruce Power giving us the money immediately? And if they're giving us the money immediately, why are we putting it through our budget?
CAO, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In order for the transaction to be appropriately accounted for in the municipality's books, the municipality of Kincardine is managing this project. The invoices will come to us. We will pay those invoices. The funds need to be included in the budget so that we can reconcile at the end of the fiscal year. I would need Roxana to confirm that, but I anticipate that that the
There's not
invoices
going
will
to
be.
there's not going to be carrying costs for us.
No.
But where are the funds going to come from, even on a temporary basis? Are we taking out a contingency? Or are we going to take it out of, some sort of type
No.
of fund?
I'm going to refer to a Bruce Power. May I refer to a Bruce Power representative to?
Before you do that, I would remind council, as noted in the report, that there's a buy-in contribution from Bruce Power in excess of $8 million that is coming to this municipality immediately.
But you have to understand that buy-in thing is going to cover their cost for the other one we just approved. Plus also, we're going to borrow $700,000 from that. It basically eats up that fund. So I'm not quite sure what you're talking. This is additional to the buy-in contribution.
Yeah, so we'll refer. Hello, welcome to council this evening.
Thank you.
And you've heard the questions that's expressed. Could you provide some clarity from Bruce Power's perspective, please?
Sure. It's Nancy Green from Bruce Power. So the water services agreement that was referenced includes clauses in which the first 3 months of capital funding are given to the municipality in advance. And then, so you get three months worth of money to pay invoices as the municipality incurs them. And then every month there's an erosion amount. So whatever you draw from that, we top back up. So the municipality in no time is absent of funds or has to draw from their own capital.
Which is the same as most other development agreements. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I would have used this as an example, like Bruce Avenue upgrades. It's a project where the funding was a mix of municipality and senior level of government, and it counted through us. If you look at most of our budget documents for projects, they have a breakdown of funding between us and external sources. This is, unplug the province of Ontario and plug in Bruce Power for this one.
It's a flow-through accounting. Yep. Okay, we have the motion before us. All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? And that was carried. Could you ask the members to, Nicole, you're getting the members? Thank you. Okay, we move on to the landfill shredder loader attachment purchase approval. We need a mover and seconder. The council amend the 2026 budget to include the purchase of a specialized loader bucket attachment in the amount of $48,000 funded from the Life Cycle Reserve Fund, moved by councillors Kavanagh and Blackwell. Is there any discussion? Councillor Kavanagh, please.
Thank you very much. I just want to point out for the public and for clarity here that the net cost of this entire project, even with the addition of the specialized loader bucket, will still be under the estimated amount for the budget.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, is there somebody that can talk about the bucket? I was just sort of wondering why the bucket wasn't included in the original capital project. And, there's different types of buckets. And so what bucket are you planning to get? Because I assume it's going to go in our front end loader.
Good evening, through you, Mayor Craig. You're correct, Councillor Stewart. I think there was a picture maybe attached in the agenda item. The bucket, we always, I guess, believe that it would be included in this process, more from a safety standpoint than anything else for our staff. You're correct, it'll attach to our current loader. It also has the ability to attach to one of the other loaders if required. And it just gives the staff a safer opportunity to load the unit. Potentially can also pick stuff out of the unit where a flat bucket, you really lose your vision type of thing as you're loading the shredder.
So what you're proposing is sort of a high dump bucket versus a gravel? So it'll have screening on the top and everything else?
It does have more of a grapple feature, Councillor Stewart, where you can clamp style down onto it and then load the shredder.
All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? That's carried. The Kincardine Municipal Airport site support, we need a mover and seconder. The council directs staff to issue an expression of interest seeking potential partnerships, operational support, management services, or volunteer involvement in opportunities related to the Kincardine Municipal Airport, and further that staff report back to council with the results and recommendations for next steps. Moved by Councillor Stewart and Williams. Discussion? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, I just want to know the timing of this. We only have about 4 months left in our term, so I'm hoping we're going to get back the EOI. Does anyone really know the timing? Plus, it's important because, as you're well aware of, we have some leases coming up for the hangars, and we still are trying to figure out, there's one gentleman who wants to put a new hangar, so maybe you can help me with the timing.
Yeah, and through you, Mayor, Councillor Stewart, to your question. Currently, we have a draft of the EOI, so we can anticipate having it out sometime in July, with probably bringing it back in late August to council for what we have for the interest.
Good. Excellent.
Councillor Steinhoff, Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I guess my question is, if I'm getting this right, instead of going out for RFP, we want to go with request for information. The question that I would have is, one of the things I would say we took on as a risk maybe is that we don't currently have someone managing that for us. It's carried on to municipal staff. And I just would like to understand whether or not we're still meeting all of those requirements. There's a lot of Transport Canada requirements associated with it. So to defer this, like, we chose to take a short-term risk, in my opinion, and now we're going to defer it longer because it becomes a much longer process, which is fine if it's the right thing to do. But are there any interim actions that we need to do? I guess what I'm saying is the maintenance being kept up, or is there an interim action we need to do while we do this detailed analysis?
Through you, Mayor, since March of 2025, it has been with us, as you know, myself as the oversight, seeing the operations, and as well as our operations staff and park staff that look after the maintenance. Things are covered in terms of the regular inspections and keeping up on regulations at the time. We feel like the expression of interest is the right route to go, that we're putting the cart before the horse in getting an RFP that we don't really know if there's any interest out there. So we feel that this would be the better way approach, that we're getting the right feedback from the community of what is out there to tailor the RFP to. So,
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you, through you. Thank you for bringing this forward. I really appreciate it. I know it was a struggle to kind of look at what's out there and figure out how to write an RFP for that. What I like about this approach is I think it does kind of allow a made in Kincardine approach potentially. One of the things I think is we should potentially start advertising that this is going to go out even before it's ready to go out, because it does take groups a little bit of time to maybe look for partnerships or figure out how they're going to respond. So even just giving people an FYI that this is coming. The other is that if some things come back from the EOI that we're supportive of, does it require an RFP process afterwards, or could, if there's a couple of really good opportunities, can that be debated at that point?
through you, Mayor, I believe that we could look at any opportunity. One of the things that would be was like the fairness in the RFP, that we're offering it to anyone if there's only one distinct one, I mean, then we know that that's the interest out there. So we can look at it at that time.
Yep, and that's part of the resolution that, you know, the report comes back to council with the results of the expression, and here's what we think is the next best steps forward. So, Councillor Stewart, please.
Just a quick one. And I think, you know, it's probably our problem more than your problem, but, you know, it took a year for this to come through. I think, you know, we might have to take some ownership around the council, because sometimes I think we overload the staff. So thank you for bringing it, but it, you know, it's an old resolution I see, but thanks for bringing it forward.
Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. For me, like Councillor Stewart, I acknowledge your comments. We've asked a lot of staff. I do have a certain amount of hesitancy without understanding what the timeline for this looks like. With going with RFI to RFP, I'm not against it, but I would like to understand the timeline, because to your point, we are, I think, putting a lot of burden on our staff with just running the extra items. I'm just going to be transparent. I've had a number of different emails, even from individuals asking for fobs and understanding why, like where it is on different things. Like I'm challenged because I feel like there's a backlog of items that people are looking for, just based on constituents that have reached out to me. And I obviously understand there's probably a pecuniary interest there. But if we can't address these types of things that are languishing, I'm just curious what the timeline is, if you could help me understand.
We're gonna shoot that over to the CAO for comment, perhaps.
I would like to distinguish between this expressions of interest process as we look to determine what the most viable and appropriate management organization, structure is the right word, is going to be. I think in one of the challenges that you face, where you have like multiple people looking for multiple things in the airport, and that the operations of the airport have kind of evolved over time. One of the things that we will be looking for, I think, out of this expressions of interest is an organization or a person who will be able to really have a set of processes and be available to people to direct them. There have been some situations where people perhaps had expectations that were not correct. And I know that Corey and the staff in the department have done their very best to both educate people as well as meet the requests that are being made to them.
So I think this is the best path forward to fulfill that public-private partnership model that we had envisioned originally. And, you know, you put out the request, are you interested in helping us either address this or be the person that we address? So I think it's the right, and if it does take some time, I acknowledge that it's not going to be tomorrow. I appreciate Councillor Blackwell's comments. You know, there might be a couple people out here that might be a little interested in what's going on, and they have contacts, of course, too. Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I would like to thank you for bringing this forward too, because the airport is an asset that I have always felt that we need in our community. I don't want to see it go away. I do want it to be managed efficiently and cost effectively. I personally, just based on the limited information I have and experience I have, I mean, I have looked at it as if I'd want it to stay a municipal asset, but I also have felt all along that I didn't have enough information to make a sound decision. And I was, even though we agreed at the last council to go through with it with the RFP process, it did scare me a little bit, because again, I didn't think I had enough information to make a final decision once we had those proposals come towards us. So I appreciate that staff recognized an opportunity to get us more information, to reach out to the community and find some potential solutions and bring that back to us before we move to a more final phase. I really appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing what comes forward, because I am really excited about the potential for what our airport could be.
Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
Thank you, through your chair. Just a question as we go through this. Would it be appropriate for us to have an advisory committee? I know, like, we formed committees for housing, we formed committees for recreation. As the information comes back for the request for information, I really think it warrants like a community, like something that opens up tentacles for input. And maybe I'm wrong in that. I don't want to slow this down, but I'm just asking the question.
So I'm listening to the acronym you're using, and it's not a request for information. It is an expression of interest. So it is, like, in my head, it changes a little different. It's not just asking about information at the airport. It's, no, I'm interested in taking part in the management of this thing, or this is the model we think. So I'm going to suggest that it is under the leadership of Corey and his broader team, that they receive those expressions and bring it back to us and say, and if there's a need for a committee for like really deep conversation after that, I'd more likely support that path.
I understand. The reason I raised the comment is just we know that's an important part of our community, and some folks may think otherwise, but I know that I am of the proponent that it is. So I just think that it warrants a discussion when those expressions come back of interest, because to Councillor Prenger's point, it offers some exciting opportunities that will cause pivot points based on the decisions that you make.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Let's go to vote, please.
We have a motion before us. All in favor of that motion? Anyone opposed? And that's carried. Repeal of policy PR 3.1 and conversion to municipal tree procedure. We need a mover and seconder that council approve the conversion of policy PR 3.1 municipal tree procedure into an internal administrative procedure, and that policy PR 3.1 municipal tree procedure be repealed, and that the minor amendments to bylaw number 2024-71 tree canopy and natural vegetation policy as outlined in Appendix A be approved to enhance alignment with municipal operational practices. Moved by Councillors Blackwell and Stewart. Is there discussion? Councillor Prenger, please.
All right, thank you through the chair. Sorry for that wait there. Okay. I understand what we're trying to do with this, I think. I'm not wholly against it. I'm all about efficiency and putting things in the right place. I do think there might be one or two things that we're moving to the procedure that are more of a policy leaning type content. And there's a little bit of disconnect between the existing one and the proposed procedure content, specifically in the proposed, sorry, let me make sure. Okay, I didn't write it down, but the proposed procedure says that you will aim to plant 2 trees per 1 removed, whereas the current policy in 3.1 says a minimum of 2 trees to replace 1 removed will be planted. And our the bylaw 2021-140 to regulate trees on municipal property, it still says that a minimum of 2 trees will be planted for each removed. So if we're making a change without highlighting that we're actually making a change, because saying aim to means there's discretion there and you don't have to. And my other concern is that this procedure can, it says, I believe the report says that the procedure can be updated without council's approval, which means that number could be changed at any time without council knowing. So to me, it's not, that's not a procedural thing. A procedural thing is that trees removed will be replaced, and the policy type language would be with how many, in my opinion.
So I'll respond to that about the 2-for-1 replacement policy. We have a bit of an ash problem in our community. And I've heard of the success that our outside maintainers have in planting trees. And if we replace 2 for 1 at this point, we'll go broke, in spite of water or anything else. There's enormous number of trees being replaced. So if I had my dibs, we would establish a budgetary number for planting trees, and here it is. Because there's really no way to establish where the trees are going to be planted, or like who's responsible for counting the trees you cut down. I understand that philosophy. We're going to plant more than we cut down, but in this day, that's a really challenging policy implementation. To put that's really tough. So, Corey, do you want to comment on that, or is there anything to comment on?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I would echo your comments on it's more budget related for the ash tree issue that we're up against. For the dead trees, it's very difficult to plant the 2 to 1. That's why we essentially say we aim that we try our best for sure. And I mean, that would just be based on budget constraints.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Thanks for that, Corey. However, respectfully, Mayor, I'd suggest that the ash tree problem is a completely separate issue. Every time a tree in the forest dies, we don't replace it. So I actually think we should come up with an exception for the ash tree replacement program. Specifically, but where trees are removed from municipal property out of convenience or because it's in the way or we want to do something different in that location, to me, that's when you would absolutely do at least a minimum of 2 per 1. If you're going to take down trees from the park because we're going to put up a structure or you're going to develop a lot on municipal lot, then we would do the 2 for 1. Whereas the ash program, to me, needs a little closer attention. Like I said, we don't replace every tree that falls over in a forest that's on municipal land. So replacing 2 for 1 for every ash tree just because we remove it because it's a danger, I think that's completely unrealistic, actually. We can aim and maybe come up with a suggestion of how we want to help our forests regenerate or replace some of our canopy because we lost so many ash, but in my opinion, it isn't the same. The same approach should not be applied for the ash trees.
So would you recommend amendments or deferral or a different approach to this? Well, like if this isn't the path forward, what is a preferred solution?
On the specifically on the 2 for 1, I would recommend that it stays the way it is in the existing policy and the wording remain the same with a minimum of 2.
Councillor Kavanaugh, please.
Thank you very much. I would second and support that, and I would also be willing to have a caveat explicitly in there saying like this refers specifically to trees that we were taking down, and the ash issue would be considered separate from that. But I do think, and I guess this would be a question for staff, excluding the ash problems that are going on, is a 2 for 1 when we talk about like housing development or road construction, is that level of replacement sustainable within the budget, or is that still higher than the budget? Like even if we set aside the ash issue?
Through you, Mayor, I can speak to the operation side of things with the trees. We can certainly sustain the 2 for 1 for anyone that we take down that's living that needs to be removed. Some of the other development stuff, maybe CAO can respond.
So what I'm hearing around the table is that we separate out the tree removal and replacement when it's directly attributed to ash borer disease. Or just dead trees. If the tree is dead and we take it down, then it's best efforts with regard to replacement. Is that what I'm hearing? And then where we are actually having to remove trees because there for infrastructure reasons, then whatever, for whatever reason, if it's a live tree and we need to take it down, then our commitment is to try and replace that live tree with 2 other trees at some location. Is that correct?
Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes. First, thank you through Chair. Just wanted to pick up or try to clarify or see if I understand Councillor Pranger's concern that even though that's around the 2-for-1 again, but even though the suggested edits to Appendix A, actually it's Schedule A of the tree policy, tree and natural vegetation policy, what still remains under municipal initiatives number 5 is the municipality shall replace any trees vegetation that is removed with 2 trees or other vegetation on municipal property. And it says, so you're okay with the policy that it still covers that aspect of it, and we don't need to rely on the municipal tree bylaw to do that. It's in the overriding mother policy or highest level policy. That's one, the thought. Then the other thing is, I don't know why we have to be so complicated. To me, if we're removing a dead ash, we're not removing a tree. We're removing a vertical piece of firewood. And if we just look at it that way, like, it's not a tree. It's not a tree anymore. So to me, I don't see why we need to change that policy at all to fine-tune the wording for ash trees. I think if you just read it, like, if you're out removing ashes, you're not removing a tree. It's dead.
You get one response and then we'll move on.
So, thank you, through you, Chair. I base my comment on what was said that we can't have it, the policy or the procedure cannot say 2-for-1 because of the ash program. So my assumption was that we plan to replace every ash that we're removing for safety purposes. And I don't personally recall 100% direction from council that we had to do that. Maybe I'm forgetting. But if that's what staff's plan was, what I'm saying is I don't think we need to do that. And so I think amending the procedure to say aim for 2 based on that reasoning is not necessary, that we should leave it a minimum of 2. And as you said, I agree with you that I don't think replacing ash is actually necessary, but if that was what direction we gave them, then we need to amend the direction we gave them. So I couldn't recall right while I was giving my comment, but I 100% agree with what you're saying. I think I had based my comment on what was said previous.
Okay, we're not going to go around this any farther. What I'm going to recommend is that we send this back to staff for a little refinement. He's heard the comments about the ashes and things like that. I'm also looking at the clock and how much more are we at? Councillor Stewart.
Yes, and really, it's page 3 on the procedures where tree removals are associated with larger projects or matters that may generate heightened public interest. The municipality will take, let's put it in that we need to take 2 weeks prior before we start removing trees. And the procedure's not really saying that, but we need to notify the public, even in large capital projects, a week or 2 weeks in advance. Simple as that.
Communication strategy.
You got it. So make it clear.
Okay, so with council's concurrence, we'll refer this back to staff for a slight bit of elbow rub and shine up, and it'll come back again when it gets some of those points clarified. 2026 Community Improvement Plan Program funding. Do you need to motion to refer? Okay, we need a mover and seconder to refer it to staff. Rory and Councillor Pranger, all in favor? That's carried. So we need a mover and seconder that council approve the 2026 Community Improvement Plan intake funding allocations as outlined in Attachment A to Staff Report Economic Development 2026-4. including full funding of eligible requests under intake 1 for Lake Huron Home in the amount of $17,500, Huron Shores Orthodontics in the amount of $10,000, and Beefway Incorporated in the amount of $35,000, based on strong alignment with program objectives, project readiness, and demonstrated community benefit. And further, the council authorized staff to enter into funding agreements with the approved recipients in accordance with the Municipality of Kincardine Community Improvement Plan and all approved program requirements. Moved by councillors Williams and Kavanagh. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, you did? Absolutely.
I just wanted to make sure that I read this right. Is there a difference between the commonplace and commonplace?
So to answer that question, Councillor, I actually have, first off, I'd like to thank all of our CIP applicants who are actually in attendance today. Thank you, Danny, Brad, Sadie, and Mark. So yeah, they took time out of their day to come and join us at council to answer these very poignant questions that they will probably be in a better position to answer than myself. So I'd like to call up either Danny or Brad from Beefway Incorporated to answer that on behalf of the councillor.
That was a setup. Good for you.
Yeah, if you could just pull the mic up a little bit, Brad, and then introduce yourself so that we know who we're talking to.
Very good. So yes, Brad Gilchrist here from the Beefway. And I guess just 2 comments I'd like to say just before I answer that simple question. I've heard a lot about staff here tonight. This is the first time I've been to council. And any interaction that I've had with staff has been extremely positive and extremely helpful. So as a local business owner, I want to commend the staff that does everything that they do each and every day, and helps us kind of get through our daily things. When some of us are maybe just farmers that ventured into this business world, it's a very different process. So I guess
that's the point of order there. We're never just farmers. Excuse me.
Anyway, I do commend the staff for everything, and that's from building right through to some of this stuff that we're talking about here today. So thank you for everything that you guys do. To answer the question though about the commonplace, it is the same. It is the same business owner that's called Commonplace or the Commonplace. I'm not actually sure what the official name is, but the reference is the same.
Evan, carry on, please.
Does council want to hear more background? Thank you.
Questions, please.
Thank you. Sorry. I just wanted to clarify the application from Lake Huron Home was for
So, council, I just want to bring your attention to the report that's in front of you. Regarding the application of Lake Huron Homes, there was just a editing error provided in your report, and I do apologize. They applied for the correct CIP program, which was the pre-development study and design program. So the error was just in the process of editing. However, all of our applicants today, I just want to add, scored extremely high as part of the scoring committee. And again, it was a very tough selection, but all projects, by the way, we had 7 applicants. I do want to highlight a few things for you guys now that I'm talking. Additionally, so one of the interesting things is that in total we had 7 applications for intake 1, and that equaled out of a request of funding and support of over $202,000, which represented over $1 million of private sector investment, clearly demonstrating a strong demand for the community improvement plan within the municipality of Kincardine. It is interesting for council to note that if we were able to fund all applications in full amount, it would closely equal to a 10-to-1 ratio for every municipal dollar invested as a part of the CIP program. So again, this is quite a necessity within the business community, and I'm very happy from an economic development capacity seeing our local businesses actually take advantage of our programs. That's it.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to echo that, how excited I am for all of these projects. And one of the ones that was really nice to see was that actually the application is to create public art. And so I think in terms of strengthening our downtown, that's been a common theme that we've talked about. I'm really excited to see these projects come to fruition and happy to support.
All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? It's carried. Checks in. The check's in the mail. Okay, moving on. We need a mover and seconder regarding Canadian government regulatory reform discussion paper. We need a mover and seconder. The council supports the submission of the Canadian Association of Nuclear Host Communities on the Canada Getting Major Projects Built regulatory reform discussion paper. And further, the council directs staff to submit the letter to the Government of Canada on behalf of the municipality that endorses the nuclear host communities submission. Moved by Councillors Stewart and Kavanagh. Discussion? Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to provide maybe some guardrails. Well, this is a project or a submission in support of CANAC. It's broader, but if it gets more specific into any particular nuclear industry partners, then I may need to declare.
All in favor? That's carried.
Get your vote in now. Did we vote on her?
Okay, here we go. Flipped the wrong page. Burby Side Road Purchase and Sale Agreement Extension. We need a mover and seconder. The council directs staff to work with the purchaser and realtors to amend the purchase and sale agreement for the surplus property at 543 Burby Side Road to extend the expiration of the agreement from June 30th to a date agreeable to the purchaser, but no later than September 30th. And that staff bring back a bylaw on a future agenda to create the block of land as a separate parcel, enabling the purchase and sale to be executed, and a further report to amend the purchase and sale agreement with the updated legal description once the reference plan has been assigned by the Land Registry Office.
That should say 26, not 20. June 30th, 2026 in the motion?
Oh, did I? Oh,
No, it
from
says 2020.
20, yes.
It should be 2026.
The expiration of the agreement did not happen on June 30th, 2020. It was 2026. Moved by Councillors Prenger and Blackwell. Discussion. Councillor Prenger.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Personally, it's just a planning process delay that did not get addressed in time, and they just need an extension to make sure it all works out per planning requirements.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. It's good to know that, you know, when we have surplus lands, we need to step back and make sure we have it all done. So we have to do a survey, severance, registration. Who's paying for this? Is it our cost or is it the purchaser cost, or I forgot which cost it is?
I'll direct that to our planning department.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Craig. Yes, the expenses related to this are being paid by the purchaser. As laid out in the purchase and sale agreement, they were required to do the planning application. So when we switched gears from the consent to this route, they're still paying for the survey and a cost associated with that.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. Mine was just a process question in terms of delaying this. Is that going to be something that this council can vote on after the nomination deadline if that becomes an issue?
This is something that would be covered under the report that's coming, to remind council at our next meeting with regard to restricted acts and the delegated authority that's been provided to the CAO. So provided it's just proceeds as outlined here, should it extend past August 21st, it could come to the CAO's desk to be finalized.
Okay, so I need to No. We need to refer back to one of our planning applications, particularly for Soaring Eagles development. Agree? Oh, all in favor of the other thing. Okay. So we need to refer you back to the Bogdanovich application. Subsequent to council's decision, our CAO received a communication from Karina Smith, the senior planner, indicating that the Bogdanoviches had contacted her already, and in preparation for going to the land tribunal, they were wanting to make sure that they knew the specific reasons for the refusal of their application, which is a responsibility of the municipality to say, this is the reason why we did it. So I would poll the members who did not support that application to provide a specific reason, so that, when we hire our other planner outside of the county, because they can't defend it in court for us because they were in support of it. We need to get an external planner to defend our position. And if we're going to instruct them what they're defending against, we need to know. So I will rephrase that so Councillor Steinhoff-Gray knows. The senior planner has informed us that they have been contacted by the Bogdanoviches at Soaring Eagles, and we need to provide specific reasons why we refused the application, just so that when they go to the land tribunal, they can be very specific in what their application means. So, Councillor Prenger, you began the conversation, and clerk, you're going to record this. Can you write these reasons down to respond, or okay? Council. Yeah.
I'm not allowed to bring last minute things to council like this. I understand we discussed the matter, and I'm happy to put into writing every concern that I had. I want to understand why we're doing it immediately in this moment.
Amberly, please.
Just to clarify, I don't know that Karina has heard from the applicant, but she got a hold of me as soon as she left and realized as part of the county's process, they're to ask council for the reason for refusal. So it's part of the process, and just it's okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Councillor Prenger, please.
My opinion is that the submission did not, or it failed to provide sufficient evidence to show that it meets the requirements of the PPS, the county official plan, and municipality of concordant official plan in order to rezone the EP2 to residential.
Councillor Stewart, please.
I would say we need to review the EIS when it comes down to this particular area. I don't think it's going to quite make the mustard. Thank you.
Councillor Steinhoff-Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm completely aligned with the points provided by Councillor Prenger and Stewart. And the point that I explicitly outlined was there was a couple examples where they say what the standard is, and this could be my layman issues. But they'd say a standard, and then they would explain what they did that didn't seem to line up exactly with the standard. And I didn't understand why that deviation was there, which allowed me to consider some of the submissions in contrast to what the study found. So I'm just being quite transparent in where I was coming from.
Councillor Williams, please.
Sure. I concur with my fellow councillors, in particular around sufficient evidence to support rezoning of EP2 lands, but I would also add concerns around the additional potential legal risks associated with the municipality with what I've considered upon the review, with drainage issues on those properties, and the risk that the additional risk it creates for the municipality on insurance claims.
Okay, thank you for your input. That's all. Well, no, well, I'm sorry, I thought you already said your reason.
I also believe that the proposal does not adhere to our official plan in terms of the minimum requirements for lot sizes in when, I don't know how to word this. Mike did it a better job, but yes, it doesn't meet our official plan requirements for minimum lot size in this area. On partial services, thank you. That was.
Okay? Good to go? All right. Are there any notice of motions to be presented at council this evening by any council members? All right, so we have extend deadline for notice of intention to designate listed heritage property. And this is a recommendation that the council addressed. This came from Heritage Kincardine. We need a mover and seconder that, whereas amendments, if you want a 5-minute break. Has everyone read the motion? So the request generally is that we're requesting the province of Ontario to extend the January 1st, 2027 deadline for issuing notices of intention to designate. We consider extending the deadline farther to January 1st, 2030 to complete heritage evaluations and make informed designation decisions, and that this resolution be circulated to the Minister of Citizenship and Multiculturalism and a whole bunch of other people. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. All right, motion to pass bylaws. Hello? Okay. And we need to split out the ones that they, 5 and 6.
And then 7, did we say? 7's going next.
And 7's deferred, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. All right, so when we get to the ones where you have to declare on because of your conflict, if you just spin the chair around, we don't need to go. We need a mover and seconder that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, third time and finally passed this 24th of June. Amend zoning bylaw 2026-72, amend zoning bylaw 2026-73, and that's all. We need a mover and seconder for those two, Councillors Kavanagh and Blackwell. All in favor? Those two are carried. The next two are about water treatment plant. So we need a mover and seconder that you award the Kincardine Water Treatment Plant upgrade tenders 2026-76 and award inline booster pump station water main extension tender bylaw 2026-7. Those will be wrong numbers. Those numbers will be changed to reflect what they actually are. Moved by Councillors Kavanagh and Deputy Mayor.
We recorded a vote. Do we need to record it again?
If you can, if you want to.
Yes. On the tender.
On both of these together?
Yes.
So we will call for a recorded vote. Councillor Stewart?
No.
Councillor Kavanagh? Deputy Mayor Hinchberger?
Yes.
And Mayor Craig?
Yes.
That is carried.
The other bylaws were either deferred or defeated or something, so we don't have to pass them. Okay, so we move on to the consent agenda, and we know how these work, the routine, unless you want to talk about something tonight or a subsequent meeting. Any council members have anything they'd like to address? Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you. I just had a question for perhaps the CAO, depending on what staff are available to answer it, related to 8.1DE. It's a letter about beach safety and enjoyment. And I thought the letter had a pretty valid point around, we're doing promotion about our beach and the sunsets in Toronto to try and attract more visitors here. Yeah, and they're looking to kind of ask about beach cleanup, and I thought maybe just a question for staff or perhaps the mayor, whoever can answer this. What is our typical beach cleanup plan, and do we plan to do any tidying of the beach?
I'm sorry that I'm not able to provide the details of that. At this point, I would need to, sorry? Oh, I don't doubt that there's a plan, but I don't know it off by heart. So we can certainly share that out. Perhaps there's some communication on the website that we could put forward. But thank you for raising the question. I think it is an important thing for the public to be aware of. So we'll get that information out if that's okay.
Anything else? Councillor Blackwell?
Thank you. Just for those watching, there is a beach and stewardship and maintenance plan that we approved in 2025. So it is on the website, but I appreciate it. It's hard to know all of our plans off the top of your head. I, to no one's surprise, want to pull the lagoon update. I know Mark's been patiently waiting all night just to chat to us about it. Can I say something just before we speak about that? Can I make a comment first?
How about we let Mark make his presentation, and then we can comment subsequent to that. Yeah, so this is 8.1BC. Manager, welcome.
Thanks, Mayor Craig. Yeah, I prepared the report at the request of the CAO late last week and got it into the agenda here for tonight. Our department is certainly willing to acknowledge that we've received a lot of complaints pertaining to odors around the Kincardine Lagoon site. Just for clarity, we do think there's been significant improvements in the last 5 to 6 days. We are working with both our engineering team and the initial supplier of the aeration system that was installed or commissioned in early 2023, I believe. That's, if you guys have questions, I'm more than willing to answer them.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you, through you. So I do want to acknowledge this hasn't been easy for the team. I'm sure it hasn't been easy for the residents either. I think what's really important to highlight is there's kind of two compounding issues. We have the sludge removal issue, which has been ongoing and which we are working to address. The other issue is the challenges with the aeration pond, and I feel like we're starting to get ahead of that, which is really nice. The one comment I was going to make was in my new role, I'm learning a lot about safety culture, and I'm learning a lot about the importance of being able to feel safe and able to be taken seriously when you share problems. And I think it takes staff a lot of, we maybe haven't always built that culture in this organization. And I really do commend Mark and his team for being able to share with council the challenges that they found when they came on board, and that the work that they've been doing to actually try and improve that. And it hasn't always worked the way that we've expected, but I really want to clarify and support that, yes, we need to hold things to account, but we also need to be able to say, we need to hear from you. We need you to be able to bring reports to us, and we can't always shoot the messenger, or else we're never going to hear about problems. So I do appreciate that this has come forward. I appreciate the work that's going in. I know staff are working very hard on this, and I know that the community has made it known that they're finding it challenging. And so that's just, I'll just get off my pedestal now.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm pretty certain, Mark, you haven't worked for the municipality for 60 years, so you haven't been here since the beginning of the issue. And thank you for your contributions recently, and Jerry as well. 3 quick questions. two about aeration, one about sludge removal. Do we add oxygen, or are we adding oxygen via air? Is our first.
We are adding oxygen via air.
Okay. Second question is, we were notified that some changes have been made to the rate of air addition late last week. Are we still operating under those changes that were made?
Correct, we are.
Okay. The third has to do with sludge removal. I guess it would be an ask I'm imagining we'll have at least one council meeting between now and the actual scheduled beginning of sludge removal activities. I asked some questions offline about what our preparations are for managing that in terms of prerequisites before we start, backouts, depending on what goes on. Because right now, as Councillor Blackwell mentioned, I think we're really focused right now on the aeration cell, and yet what we have coming is what is the planned part. And if I understand correctly, you're going to, at that point, you put the geotubes properly supported on the bank, you're going to agitate the contents of whatever lagoon is, you're going to pump that into it, adding a coagulant or a polymer. That's going to stay in the tube. The water's coming back out, but hydrogen sulfide is also a small molecule, and if there's any in train going to the geotube, it's probably coming out to atmosphere on the way. So it's just an ask at this point that between now and the actual start, we have some kind of briefing on how we're actually going to carry out the nuts and bolts of sludge removal, especially prerequisites and backup prerequisites, monitoring, and backup conditions. Thanks.
Okay, good. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, mine won't be as technical. I believe there's a public meeting you're planning. Maybe you'd like to tell the public once again about the public meeting, and then I have just one other question.
Sure. Through you, Mayor Craig, we are meeting on Thursday, July 2nd at the Davidson Center Miller Room. I certainly can't take a whole lot of credit for organizing that meeting. The strategic initiatives team here has done a fantastic job at getting the website updated, providing regular updates, and ensuring there was also a mail out to a 1 kilometer radius around the ponds. So that group's been a huge support for the success of this project.
Excellent. I'm glad we got that out in the public. The other thing is that you hired Bishop. Excellent. They're really well recognized, well known, so kudos to you. They're the right company to come in and help us with this. So I hope all the best and everything else. And the only thing I would say is you're coming to the meeting, maybe not bringing any samples with you. Thank you.
Councillor Steinhoff-Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. If I could pull 8.1, Bravo, Bravo, I think, BB. Environmental Services Compliance, April through May 2026. Okay. I have a couple of questions. Obviously, I know this is with the Kincardine wastewater lagoon site, but when I was looking at some of the exceedances, seeing E. coli always makes me nervous. I understand it's not our drinking water. I want to be super clear in that statement so I don't confuse anybody. But I wasn't sure because it was a bit more than a bit higher than it should be. I didn't know if there's any contributors to that and if it means that there's some mitigations we might need to see. And the only reason I ask is because even when you go to the beginning of it, this is, again, switching gears in a totally different topic, but we've had very similar exceedances for the sodium levels and the fluoride levels in like the Armo and Scott Points, all of our wells, really. So I understand we're in process. We report them when it happens. But because I see them all the time, I guess I have to ask, is there something that we have to do? I'll turn it over to you there.
So through you, Mayor Craig. So I can speak to the E. coli exceedance and maybe even some of the other ones. Don't quote me, but I believe so we sample bi-weekly. So when you're getting exceedances or snapshots of your samples, they're not necessarily like a massive sample size. That being said, if we were to have a exceedance early in the month, we may try to capture additional samples to get back under those limits and that. I believe the first sample in the month of May was 70 for E. coli. The hot weather on the May long weekend created a pond turnover, or we call it reservoir pond turnover, that significantly impacted the lagoon, like the appearance, quality, everything. That is a really uncommon time of year to get those. You typically get those out of your freeze thaw. So it was very uncommon to have a turnover at that point, and unfortunately that weekend lined up with our sampling as well. So that I do believe made a serious contribution to not only the E. coli, but the other limits as well, though we have struggled with those limits the last few years around the compliance.
Just because you tailed on that we've struggled with those over the last few years, I have to ask if there's any next steps that we have to look at.
So I'm going to say almost as long as I've been here, I think we had some initial problems with compliance or the odd months in the summer where we didn't meet those standards. That's initially what led us to start investigating sludge and getting those sludge volumes calculated, which then led to a plan of, clearly we have a large amount of sludge that needs to be rectified and dealt with. Those are, as I think I've mentioned, these are regularly reported to the Provincial Ministry Office. The municipality also has now a federal inspection. I think it is July the 8th, so I would assume the federal inspection has seen these slight exceedances over the last few years, and they'll also be stepping in to determine if the municipality is moving forward with a plan, figuring out next steps, because that's where we discharge. From our perspective, we are capturing as much sludge as we can in our footprint, and we feel like our plan is actually quite aggressive to close out what we have. So we're not excited about it, but we are happy to be dealing with this problem. There is always a potential that an order could be placed on the municipality to try to address other concerns as well.
Thank you. The only reason I asked is I didn't know if it was beyond what we're doing currently for sludge mitigations, but based on your answer, we're already dealing with the root cause, and so we would see improvements here. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, so we need a mover and seconder that council approve the recommendations contained in the consent agenda dated June 24, 2026, and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Moved by councillors Blackwell and Kavanagh. All in favor? It's carried.
I'd like to move that we extend the automatic, sorry, can you hold that up again? Hour of adjournment until 9. Yes, no later than 9.
Seconded by councillor Kavanagh. All in favor? That's carried. Nope, not yet. Member of council, general announcements. Councillor Williams.
No announcements.
Councillor Steinhoff-Gray.
No announcements.
Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you very much. I've got 2 to bring up. Everyone knows July 1st is Canada Day, but that also marks Dr. Gerben's official retirement day from the career as a family physician. So I'd like to take this moment to say happy birthday to Canada and also happy retirement for Gary. Thank you for everything you've done. And then finally, I'll also remind everyone that July 3rd to 5th is Scottish Fest. So everyone dust off your kilt and get ready for a good time.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you through your chair. Councillor Kavanagh just remind me how quickly July is sneaking up on us. First full-scale cruise night this Friday night, and first pipe band on Saturday. I'll leave the rest of my space for Councillor Blackwell.
Which is right now.
Thank you very much. I thought you guys might get a kick out of the fact that my son is at the circus tonight in Kincardine, and my husband asked who might be at the bigger circus, but certainly it's my son. So Yeah, yeah. I was going to mention that tomorrow is the last day of school, which is super exciting for everybody, but it also means we're likely to see little ones out and about. Luckily, we have some new bike lanes in the process of being built, so I'm really excited about that, but just keep an eye out for very excited little ones out and about now that school's done.
Councillor Pranger, please.
No announcements.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. And through you, we have a big announcement that we're having a Canada Day kickoff, but on Saturday, the 27th. And we start at 5 o'clock. It's with the Lions in the municipality are joining up as partners. We have a barbecue, very exciting barbecue, and a whole bunch of other entertainment things will come between 5 and 7. And at 7 o'clock, we'll invite the kids into the annex, and they can watch a wonderful movie called Madagascar. So that movie, and it's all free, except there's some donations for the hot dogs and hamburgers, but it should be a good way to start the Canada Day. The other thing is that the mayor and I actually, the mayor was there, but the mayor and I actually had a very exciting meeting at the county level. And the mayor really spoke very highly, and we're going to be, and all of you will be part of it, we're going to probably introduce an official plan amendment, and it's called Special Provision Area. We won't go into details, but we'll be working on that over the summer and hope to have something for you to take a look at. But it is going to basically help some of our communities understand what they're looking for in long-term growth and everything else before we get into discussions like Soaring Eagle. So anyways, it'll be exciting, but it's going to take some time by the planners and our staff to put it all together in the community. Thank you.
Just a couple of things. The community conversation regarding housing is on July 7 at the Davidson Center. Starts at 6 o'clock. Continues to be a predominant issue. And Lighthouse Blues start on July 10 and 11 weekend. So that'll be an exciting time as well. So downtown. CAO.
Thank you, and I think the only other special event that hasn't been covered this evening is Canada Day. And so the Canada Day celebrations begin on July 1st with the annual parade through the downtown at 11 o'clock, followed by opening ceremonies and family activities at McPherson Park. Festivities include entertainment, family fun, a community barbecue, and conclude with a fireworks display at dusk over the harbor.
All right, so I'd like a mover and seconder that council move into closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended for the purpose of considering the closed session minutes dated June 10th, 2026. Position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, specifically legal counsel, nuclear scope of work, and letter of engagement. Proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, Bruce K. Holdings. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees or potential appointees to a local board, ad hoc committee, or other municipally controlled organizations. The Compliance Audit Committee member candidates. And further, council return to regular open meeting upon completion. Moved by councillors Williams and Steinoff Gray. All in favor? That's carried. 5-minute break.